Idolatry, Part 2. The problem with nationalism, particularly Western nationalism, is that Western culture is based on ancient Greek and Roman culture. There are many fine things produced by Greek and Roman culture, but there are also many things that are conceptual ideologies which are not based on Torah, particularly in the areas of morality and ethics, such as the doctrines of positivism or scientism. During the last few centuries, mankind's knowledge has increased dramatically, and many believe that the main reason for our increase in knowledge is because of science. The word science comes from the Latin word scientia, the Latin term for knowledge. Science is a discipline for acquiring knowledge about the physical world using what is called the scientific method. There are many different branches of science, often grouped into the pure sciences, such as physics, and the applied sciences. There are those who believe that science can even answer questions dealing with morality and ethics. For example, one of the most contentious subjects during the past century has been that of creation versus evolution, the debate between Christians and secular atheists on whether God created everything in 6 days or life magically evolved from a can of Darwin's primordial soup. Christianity's defense of the Torah has, unfortunately, had a detrimental effect on how people view the Torah. The main reason that the more educated individuals do not take the Torah seriously is because of how it is portrayed and interpreted by Christianity. To a secular intellectual, the idea that the universe is only 6,000 years old is absurd, and the Church has fought a long and losing battle convincing intellectuals of the validity of the Bible since the days of Galileo. Yet, over 200 years before Galileo Galilei was even born, a rabbi named Rabbi Yitzhak de Minacho, a contemporary of the great sage Nachmanides, calculated the age of the universe to be just over 15 billion years old, an estimate that is much closer to the modern scientific age of the universe than the age accepted by the Christian creationists. And many centuries before that, the sages of the Talmud taught that there were 974 generations of man who lived before Adam. In other words, the rabbis of the Talmudic era taught that modern man had been around for nearly 45,000 years. This is the view of modern scientists as well, describing an event Jared Diamond in his book Guns, Germs, and Steel called Our Great Leap Forward, the time of the appearance of Cro-Magnon man. These are but two examples of the knowledge of the rabbis which should raise serious questions into where the rabbis got their information. But what about creation? What do the rabbis have to say about the Big Bang, the scientific theory of the origin of the universe? Most people are familiar with the Big Bang theory, how all the matter in the universe suddenly came into existence from one tiny point in space, spreading out and forming stars, planets, and galaxies. As most people know, matter is composed of atoms, usually depicted by little colored balls representing protons and neutrons that make up the nucleus, while having smaller particles called electrons orbiting around it. These colored marbles in the nucleus are themselves not solid, but are composed of even tinier particles such as quarks and leptons. According to the Standard Model of Physics, which was first proposed in the 1970s, there are 4 fundamental forces that influence these particles: the strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic force, and the gravitational force. The strong force holds the nucleus of the atom together. The weak force holds the particles together in the protons and neutrons. The electromagnetic force holds atoms and molecules together, and the gravitational force, the weakest of the 4 fundamental forces, yet it is the force which causes particles of mass to be attracted to one another over vast distances, and which is necessary to hold large objects such as stars and galaxies together. The Big Bang started when an indescribable amount of these subatomic particles suddenly appeared in a specific point in the universe. Scientists speculate that, at first, all 4 fundamental forces were unified into one single force, and as the protomatter expanded and cooled, the forces became separate. After a couple of minutes, the universe had cooled off enough to let the newly formed neutrons and protons to stick together. After about 300,000 years, the universe had cooled off enough for the electrons to be captured by the protons to form hydrogen, the most basic of matter. The electrons, to this point in time, had rendered the matter opaque due to their interaction with photons, but now, for the first time, light as we know it could be seen. This is the theory of the scientists and physicists on the beginnings of the universe and the creation of matter. The tenets of positivism and scientism are that all questions can be answered by science, including the creation of the universe and of man's place and duty in the physical world. Those who hold to these tenets of positivism and scientism believe that the Bible is based on fantasy and mythology, and there is no better proof of the superiority of science than how science explains the origins of the universe. In our next installment, we will see what the Torah says about the creation of the universe.